afternoon. Welcome to By Any Greens Necessary, the show about the farmers market on the South Side. I'm your host, Melvin Thompson. I'm the executive director of the Endeleo Institute, which is right there behind me. Endeleo is the Swahili word for progress, growth, and development. We are a member organization of Trinity United Church of Christ, located on 400 West 95th Street on the far south side of Chicago. Reverend Dr. Otis Moss III is our senior pastor. We're so happy that you came to join us again. Want to obviously talk about the market and how wonderful it was. Again, we had another perfect day weather-wise last week. I mean, 74, sunny, not too hot, nice breeze, just wonderful. The farmers sold out completely. I believe I had a couple of farmers tell me that by 9:30 they were out, which is absolutely wonderful when you think of the volume of produce that they actually bring. For one of them to be sold out by 10 o'clock in the morning, it was absolutely spectacular. The 40 plus double Dutch girls were out there doing their thing with the double Dutch old school. It was wonderful. We've been blessed with just extremely wonderful weather and an atmosphere, and that atmosphere was actually complemented by something wonderful that Trinity does every Labor Day weekend, which was also a wonderful thing that it was Labor Day weekend. But Trinity has a prison ministry, a wonderful prison ministry that serves returning citizens in so many different ways. And they sponsored a clothing giveaway right next door in our other parking lot, right next door to us. And so it was just a sea of humanity at the corner of 95th and Normal. I mean, it was just wonderful. I will say that there were probably 1,500 to 2,000 people who came out to take advantage of free clothing, from overcoats, suits, baby wear, you name it. There were people lined up. I believe they opened at 10, and there was a long line half a block down the street waiting for this to get in. People were steadily driving up and dropping off bags and bags of clothes. And by 2 o'clock, by the day's end, they had very little to take back because so much was received by the public. And it just gave us an idea just of the need. We talk about access to healthy food and healthy living and all those things, but some of the very basics of clothes and just having something on your back, particularly as we're about to approach another winter in Chicago, people just came out, and it just demonstrated to us that our community in Washington Heights is definitely in need of many things. We have a call-in number that you can call and call us. We're a live hotline right now at 312-738-1060. That's 312-738-1060. We're here to take your phone calls, and we definitely want to talk about a number of things. Because this was Labor Day weekend, and we had such a wonderful dual event going on, we topped it off with just a moving sermon by Pastor Moss on Sunday. It was such a moving sermon entitled Rebuilding the Community. And it was so appropriate for what we're doing here at Endeleo, because that's exactly what we're doing. We're not trying, as he said in his sermon, we're not trying to do all these gargantuan things. We're trying to fix what we can fix. And that was the message of his sermon, and it was just wonderful. He referred to Nehemiah in the Bible about rebuilding the wall. And that's what we're doing. We started with our public library, as I've mentioned to you many times on this show. We started just a couple of years ago, and we saw something that needed to be fixed. We saw a public library, a regional public library on the south side, one of only two in the entire city, that was basically falling down, and arguably with little attention being paid to it. And so we saw a need. We gathered the community. The community agreed that this needed to be changed, and so we did something about it. We approached the Chicago Library Board on a cold November day in late 2013, and now we have a $10 million renovation that's about to take place this month. That's right, this month, and we've got an African-American general contractor that's going to be overseeing the project. We're hiring folks from the community. The work is slated to start this month. The library will be closed in November, I believe, shortly after the very important election. And so we're talking about employing folks in our community for roughly about a year. The library is slated to, the project is slated to be, to entail about 9 to 12 months. So that's money that's going to come into households that otherwise would not have happened had we not gathered with the community and saw a wrong and corrected it. And so you never know what you're doing in a community and how it can impact other people, and that's exactly what we're doing. And so the farmers market is no different. We saw something that was underutilized, and we said, okay, how can we galvanize work and possibly funding to promote and support something that we know is good for the community? It circulates jobs. It does a wonderful, just wonderful things. And I don't know if I can say enough about what a farmer's market actually does. Yes, everybody knows you go there, you buy fruits and vegetables, but there's so much more to it. I mean, I think just the camaraderie that you see, obviously commerce is taking place. There are African American farmers from Pembroke, Illinois that are there. We've got as many as 7 that show up every Saturday, and I mean they're dancing to the music. I mean it's a party. It's a block party every Saturday, and we're just excited about this open air opportunity to feed our community with something that's good for them, and that it's providing sustenance for farmers who are making a living, trying to make a living with what they're growing. We've got young people working at the farmers market, learning about, getting that civic engagement, that civic service, those service hours that they're getting that are so valuable as they go through high school and on to college. So there are just so many, there's a litany of things that are positive that come out of these farmers markets, and we're just happy to be supporting and undergirding the work that the Trinity Farmers Market is doing. Now, last week we talked about some things that are not so nice in the Washington Heights community, and I wanted to kind of to go over them a little bit again. Last week, the city does this Healthy 2.0 report that they do, I think, every 2 or 3 years about the state, and they always do, maybe 2 years behind. So I think this covered up to 2014, and they break down what's impacting all the 72 or 73 communities in the city by what is impacting them negatively the most. And Washington Heights came under those categories in 5 different spaces. And the first one was unemployment, which is not a surprise. But what is surprising is that communities like Washington Heights and Burnside and other Inglewood are where African Americans are primarily located. They are 2.6 times more likely to be unemployed than whites, and that is, that's almost 3 times, the other culture, and that is just unacceptable. And so when you talk about a farmer's market or a library project, you're just scratching the surface of a deeper problem that is just is monumental, but you have to start somewhere. And so that was a glaring statistic that we saw, and it's not just Washington Heights, but obviously because we serve the community of Washington Heights, is definitely pertinent to us, and we take it very seriously, and we work from those statistics, but it doesn't define the community, and I want to make that clear, that it doesn't necessarily define who we are. We know the issues, we're trying to tackle them, but at the same time, we know that these are issues that must be dealt with because, again, violence. The next issue, one of the most impacted communities that have experienced gun violence, Washington Heights. And where does that come from? Well, when you don't have employment, when you don't have viable opportunities for young people, especially young people, to engage in something to put money in their pockets. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody just wants what everybody else has, and that's a decent job, a decent opportunity, a little money in your pocket, a roof over your head, maybe a decent car to drive, and that's practically it. And so you see the violence escalate, and it's no different in our community, but it is troubling that we see though that we're designated as one of those communities that has that high level of violence, and we'd like to see the corridor along 95th Street, where the farmers market is, where the public library is. We want to fill that in because basically there's a blank canvas that we have in front of us. It's basically vacant stores, vacant lots, and we just need to fill those in with quality businesses. And we hope, because we have quality vendors, African American vendors that are selling jewelry, that are selling skin products, that are selling African attire, that maybe that they'll see the successes that they had at the farmers market and maybe hang out a shingle and open a business on 95th Street. And maybe if we partner with the city of Chicago and bring this to light, because basically we've not been seen with the city, and we're hoping that the city wakes up to the fact that the library project is just the first salvo in a greater idea of revitalizing our corridor. And so hopefully we'll see a couple of businesses come in that can employ people, and that will start to chip away a little bit at those high unemployment numbers, and then bring down the violence that we're seeing in our community, because we all know that there's a social economic component to that, and that we need to address it and not wait on anyone else to come in on a white horse and save us. We need to start investing in ourselves, and that's what the farmers market is about. It's about investing in ourselves. So if you have a question or comment about anything that I've said thus far, you can reach us at 312-738-1060. That's 312-738-1060. Infectious disease. That was a surprising issue that we saw. Everything from sexually transmitted diseases like chlamydia, HIV is on the rise in Washington Heights, and we need better education. And I think the library, once it's reconfigured and we do all the physical work to it, that library needs to be a bastion of information, a health informatics hub, if you will, where maybe we've got kiosks or something inside the library that we have experts, even a nurse. I saw across the country where libraries are starting to deploy nurses on site during library hours to do simple blood pressure checks, and just simple things that they can do to relegate and help, and not necessarily be a hospital, but just be some kind of informational refuge for the community that's most affected, because a lot of our issues come from just lack of information. And because we have 25,000 people visiting our library every month, that's 25,000 people going through the turnstiles, that there is a high likelihood that if we had information about health and information about infectious diseases and how to protect yourself from getting those, that we would be a much healthier and much more knowledgeable community, and we would see that those levels would come down a lot sooner. And so we're going to be working with the library commissioner. The one thing that I admire and respect about the commissioner is that he's worked other places, and he has a real high respect for libraries as social justice hubs. And so we're going to be taking that into consideration as we move forward, because we think that the library can indeed be that place where a lot of social justice, a lot of food injustices can be addressed. We're in that designated food desert that everyone talks about. We don't have a grocery store within 2 miles. The nearest grocery store is at 95th and Stony Island, and then the next nearest one is at 95th and Ashland. That's ridiculous. That's a 2-mile radius either way from where we're centered. That's ridiculous. And so the farmers market is really a beacon, because just 3 months out of the year, there's healthy fruits and vegetables within walking distance of that 25,000 population, that 25,000 resident population that makes up Washington Heights. So we've got to do a better job. I've told you about the recent closing of the Walgreens right across the street at 95th and Halsted, right across the street from the library. It's been devastating. Obviously, we have a very high senior population. We have 6 senior homes in the Washington Heights area alone. So now you're talking about folks who depend on their medication, not having that resource at 95th and Halsted. And now that that's gone, what are they doing? Are they traveling to the next one at 95th and Ashland, or 87th and Ashland, which is 2 miles away from where they live? These are issues that we have to address, and we have to take people to task for, because these are things that produce the high levels of disease and infectious disease, because we no longer have that resource in the community anymore. So it's everything's interconnected. There's relatability to everything that I'm talking about, and the next issue is I believe it's longevity. Oh, no. Before I get to that, it's infant mortality, which is by far the most serious thing that has been going on consistently in our community. We have ranked near the top for almost a decade in infant mortality. And that is an education piece. I think we're not getting the kind of prenatal care and information to young mothers out here, and we need to do a much better job. Again, the library can be a fascinating resource, can be for having information and disseminating information to people who are not aware of the kind of diet or the kind of exercise or the kind of things that's maybe smoking or eating processed food can do to a baby. And that's why we're seeing those kind of numbers. And we're going to have to get together with the city's public health department, the county. We're going to have to address this head on, because I believe Calumet Heights and another community in Washington Heights lead the entire city in this area. And that contributes to the last issue that I want to touch on, and that's lowest life expectancy. It's with all the things that I've said ahead of this last issue, is there any wonder with the violence, unemployment, infectious diseases, infant mortality, that we're right up there at the top with lowest life expectancy in Washington Heights? It's overwhelming. But again, I hearken back to the sermon that, we can't solve all of these issues at one time. But as you can hear in my voice, there's an education piece to all of these things. We need to be better educated about all the issues that impact us, because not surprisingly, African Americans are 2 and 3 times more impacted than other cultures around things, and we know the least about them. So there's a complete disconnect. We're the most impacted, yet we know the least about the things that are, affecting us every single day. And so we need to do a better job as an organization, as a community, our political leadership, our volunteers. Everyone needs to take part in revitalizing and rebuilding our own community by just spreading the word. Tell somebody that there's a farmers market at 95th and Normal. Tell someone that there's a wonderful opportunity to eat fresh produce every single Saturday between now and September 24th. We are doing wonderful things at that farmers market. We are circulating the dollar. We are engaging folks, young people. We have a George Washington Carver garden right next door. Young people are getting involved. They're getting their hands dirty. They're learning how things grow. We even have a young farmer that's part of a family that's saying that he wants to become a farmer when he grows up, using the new technology that's available to better forecast weather and all of these scientific things. We need to get more into STEM as it relates to science, technology, engineering, and math, to better predict how we can live better, to have a better quality of life. I mean, these are all the things that we need to do to make ourselves a better citizenry, civic engagement, engaging social capital. All of these things are all connected, and I think you can hear the passion in my voice. I think what we are in need of is positive energy around all of these things. We do a number of things in community development at the Endeleo Institute, but we also do wonderful work with education, with our young people. We do Chicago bus tours. We do Black college bus tours. We've got an Empower Me tour coming up right here in Chicago at Chicago State. Mark this on your calendar, Friday, October 7th. We're partnering with UNCF, the United Negro College Fund. We're doing a wonderful Black college tour. We're going to have at least 40 HBCU schools coming from all across the country to descend on Chicago State. We all know the precarious nature of where Chicago State is, and we want to take another asset and rebuild it and revitalize that institution. That used to be a teacher's college where a lot of our Chicago public school teachers came from back in the day. It is an anchor institution. We need to save it. I'm so glad that there's been a reprieve for the school, because Endeleo fought to get that UNCF college tour there, college fair there, and we're so excited that it's going to be there. We're going to be reaching out to young people across the city, as we did last year when we had it at the South Shore Cultural Center. We had 1,500 young people show up. We want to double that this year. We really, they're going to, I've been talking to UNCF, and they're going to be passing out $100,000 worth of scholarships on site that day. So we're encouraging parents, young people to come to this. It's going to be a wonderful occasion, and we're going to be promoting not only young people going back to school, but the revitalization of Chicago State. So if you'd like to hear more about all of the wonderful work, including the work we're doing with Alzheimer's and dementia, we're working with 6 other churches right now, 6 other African American churches right now, to combat Alzheimer's in our community, because again, we're being plagued by this twice as much as the other cultures. And so education. A lot of families are either in denial or do not realize that their loved ones are being impacted by memory loss to this degree. We've partnered with Northwestern's Feinberg School of Medicine, and so we're doing just tons of different things in health, education, and community development. So if you'd like to hear about all of that, please come to our November 10th annual meeting, which is going to take place at the Beverly Morgan Park Sports Center at 115th and Western on November 10th from 6 to 8. You can call us at our office number at 773 966-1508 to learn more details. But we're going to have our annual meeting. It's Endeleo in black and white. That is the theme for this meeting this year. And we'll wrap up and pretty much sum up all that we've done. But for now, we just thank you for watching. We encourage you. There are just 3 weeks left in the farmers market. So again, we'll see you by any greens necessary. My name is Melvin Thompson, and take care of yourself. Goodbye.